I'd like to encourage people to come to the front. We are, nobody's going to be called on. There isn't a test. Nobody's going to be hit up for money. So if you come closer, you're not in any danger. Boker Tov, good morning. Welcome to Temple Jeremiah. My name is Paul Cohen. I have the privilege of serving as the senior rabbi of the congregation. On behalf of our president, Steve Kleiman, our board of directors, our senior staff, Danny Glassman, our executive director, I want to welcome you all to Temple and to this very important gathering as we look towards November and understand exactly what's at stake. So it is my privilege to turn to Aaron Sofian and to continue with the program this morning.
Thank you, everybody. I'm going to reintroduce myself or introduce myself to everybody who may or may not know me yet, and then we'll go over the agenda and then quickly get into the program. I am Aaron Sofian. I'm the lead organizer for RAC Illinois. I've been doing this now for going on about 2 years now, almost about a week ago. I want to thank Temple Jeremiah, Rabbi Cohen, who strangely enough used to come over to my house on Tuesday mornings to study Torah with my dad. And I want to thank Rabbi Rachel Heaps, who can't be here today, and Nancy Eisenberg, our RAC Illinois liaison, for helping set all of this up. Thank you for being such warm and welcoming to RAC here all the time at Temple Jeremiah. Okay, so let's get into the agenda real quick so everybody can see. Just a quick note to everybody that is watching on the live stream. You will see on this agenda that we're going to do some talking from the Bima about different things that are either have happened or are going to happen with RAC Illinois and in congregations across Illinois. And then we are going to break up into small groups and actually get a chance to fill out postcards. And during that time, there will not be much on the live stream for people watching the live stream. So if you want to step away during that part, please feel free. It should be about a half an hour to 40 minutes. It'll be obvious when it's happening. But thank you to everybody on the live stream that came that could not be here in person. Okay, so for the agenda, we did the welcome. I'm going to talk about sort of 2023 and 2024 in review and a little bit of what's coming up. Then we are going to re-ground ourselves in Jewish principles and how that guides us in our voter engagement and our Every Voice, Every Vote campaign. Then we are going to talk about some of the work we are going to do in Wisconsin as a whole in RAC Illinois. Then my friend Ted Schaffner, who's sitting up front, is going to talk about doing Every Voice, Every Vote in our congregations, especially with RAC circles and postcard parties. Then, like I said, we'll actually get to break out into groups and fill out postcard parties. We have postcards. It will sort of be like a little postcard party. We have facilitators to answer questions and scripts and postcards and pens and guidelines and all of the stuff you need to do postcards. So we'll actually get to walk away filling out postcards that we will then send to high opportunity voters in Florida to push them to vote on ballot 4, to rescue reproductive rights in Florida. So that is our agenda for today, but I am going to start with where we have been and where we are going, especially with our state campaign for many of the people in here who have participated in that, and then we will get into our Every Voice, Every Vote voter engagement campaign. Okay, so a year in review. What happened? Okay, so starting in 2023, we did a listening campaign across Illinois in Reform congregations where we listened to where people felt the brokenness of the world. What we heard widely and deeply was gun violence prevention and barriers to affordable housing. We heard that all over the place. We heard deep stories of why that resonated with people and widely with in our communities, congregations, and the larger Reform Illinois community of Illinois. We then took those two issues and did a research campaign where we met with allies, partners, hopefully allies that were across lines of difference. And we took those issues and tried to figure out how to turn that into a campaign where we make tangible impact. After meeting with many partners, we found legislation for each issue. The issue for barriers to affordable housing was called the Build Illinois Homes Tax Credit. I'm sure many people in this room have gotten many emails about it from me or have heard about it from people talking about it, but it created a sustainable and long-term source of building actual affordable housing in Illinois that would keep moving forward. And then we also found Karina's bill, which many of you have also probably recently been hearing in the news again, which allowed for courts to mandate search warrants to remove firearms from people's households when orders of protection were served. We then went on to advocate for both of these campaigns. This included over 300 people taking action, over 700 total actions taken, over 250 emails sent to legislators and the governor, over 100 phone calls made, 4 legislative meetings, and we convinced 4 senators to sponsor one or both of these bills. Our work really did matter. I wish to tell you that the story of this was success, though, and it was not. It was not that we weren't successful. We were successful, but we were not how we wanted to be successful, which was getting these legislations passed. So I'm going to talk a little bit about why not. First, build Illinois homes tax credit. Put simply enough, we weren't able to convince enough legislators to make it a priority in this round of budget negotiations. Budget negotiations are complex. There's lots of people pushing and pulling. There's lots of things going on. This time we weren't able to make it enough of a priority. That does not mean it didn't move up in the priority list and did not become part of future priorities. It often takes more than one budget cycle to pass this type of budget legislation. For example, the child tax credit was passed this time. That took about 6 years of budget negotiations to pass. So if we keep pushing at it and keep working, there is this to pass. And we are committed at RAC Illinois to creating more affordable housing and finding more sources of sustainable growth and sustainable money coming from the state for affordable housing. Karina's bill, a little bit of a different story. Karina's bill did have support in Springfield to pass. I will be completely honest with you, my count said there were 65 votes to pass this bill. So then you must ask yourself, why did the bill not pass? What leadership tells us is that there was a U.S. Supreme Court case called Rahimi versus United States, which is essentially an analogous law, federal law, to Karina's bill that allowed the federal government to take away guns when an order of protection was served. The United States Supreme Court decided that case last Friday. They decided with Karina's bill, remarkably, but they did on an 8-1 decision, and so now we know Karina's bill is constitutional, and that excuse no longer exists. That is not something leadership can bring to us as the reason they don't want to pass it, because I will tell you the real reason they don't want to pass it is an election year. They had an excuse, but it's an election year, and that's why we're going to talk about getting out the vote for our future elections. So, what does this mean for us moving forward? It means that we will be able to push and pass this, or try to pass this, during what we call veto session in November. I'm going to get into the weeds for a second, but the way session works in Illinois is that regular session goes from January to May 31st. You need a simple majority to pass a bill in those months. If it goes past May 31st, we call it special session or veto session. They always come back in October or November to do veto session. It's called veto session because often it's when they come back to override vetoes, but that is just a nickname. They often take up absolutely new legislation. For example, the trailer bill that we all worked on for pretrial fairness was passed during a veto session, even though it was not a veto bill. So, come November, they have told us the dates of veto session, which are Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday of the 2 weeks between the election and Thanksgiving. We will be able to pass this bill, and we will be working to pass this bill. So, that will include email action alerts, phone calls to legislators, legislative meetings, and most likely an in-person advocacy day. So please keep an eye out, because we will be working with our partners and as RAC Illinois to pass Karina's bill. This is vital legislation. It really is. Somebody is going to get hurt between now and November because they didn't pass this legislation, and so we need to continue to advocate and make sure that come November that is not a reality anymore, that this legislation is passed, we know it is constitutional, and we are keeping particularly vulnerable people in our population safe from firearms. So how does this relate to our work we are doing on our Every Voice, Every Vote campaign? As much as we do, or sometimes don't, want the federal government to affect our work in Illinois, we were very close to Karina's bill becoming unconstitutional before it was ever passed. One of the ways we end up this way is when our democracy is not allowed to thrive, and instead we allow our democracy to collapse. Today, the forces of division are spreading racism and anti-Semitism while restricting the freedom to vote. Reproductive freedom in places like Florida are under attack. We must create a safe future for ourselves and for all the people working together to strengthen our democracy. So what I'm asking of you today, and you'll learn more about how to do that, is to join our nonpartisan campaign to ensure all have an equal say in our decisions that impact our lives, especially the reproductive decisions we all must make during the course of our lives. I'm now going to hand it to Rabbi Lily Goldstein of Congregation BJBE to talk about how these values are also Jewish values, and after that you'll get to hear about a number of different ways you can join us in our efforts. Thank you, Rabbi Goldstein.
Thank you, Aaron. Good morning, everyone. Nice to see you all. As Aaron mentioned, I'm Rabbi Lily Goldstein. I'm one of the newer rabbis at Congregation BJBE over in Deerfield. Very happy to see some of my people here. So this week's Torah portion is Parshat Shlach Lecha, and we are in the wilderness, Bamidbar, and God tells Moses to send some scouts out into the land of Israel, because we're still in the wilderness, in order to assess the situation there so that the Israelites can prepare to enter. And in this moment, we learn about the importance of representation. Because when the scouts go, 10 of the 12 are not thrilled with what they see, in theory. They get very scared, they're concerned about how the people will survive in this new land, and they come back with all sorts of terrible reports about the giants there and all the ways in which their people will fail and how they won't be able to survive. And the Israelites freak out. They hear these reports and they say, you know what, we should have just gone back to Israel. We should have just gone back to Egypt. They haven't been to Israel yet. We should have just gone back to Egypt. It would be better that way. And God is so angry because this was supposed to be their promised land. And all of a sudden, because of the actions of 10 people, 10 fearful people, the Israelites no longer have faith in their mission. And God wants to destroy all of them. Moses intervenes, and ultimately, the 2 scouts who did have faith in that vision, Joshua and Caleb, are allowed to enter, but the rest of the Israelites are not. The rest of the Israelites of that generation. And so what this moment teaches us is that the people who represent us matter. The people who are going out into the world on our behalf, going to Springfield, going into our government, they need to have the kind of vision that we want them to have. They need to have the vision of dignity for every person. They need to have the vision of protecting our climate, of protecting our reproductive rights. They need to contain within them the hope for promise. And so it is our responsibility as Jews and as Americans to make sure that it's the right people who are aligned with our values who are out there being scouts. And luckily, we're no longer in a position where there's a Moses who decides the 12 people. We get to make those decisions. And we want a strong democracy and a community where every single person, whatever color, background, or zip code belongs, where every person's valued, where our voices can be heard in the public square. In this future, every person gets to experience safety, belonging, and power. And the risks are that, on the other hand, we're facing a future where there are forces of division, fear, as Aaron mentioned, white supremacy and anti-Semitism, where those forces can overtake democracy. And there can be barriers that silence our voices, that keep us from expressing our values, from having that vision of a promised land. Policymakers can limit reproductive freedom, they can take away rights from LGBTQ+ people, they can allow air pollution to continue unabated, and more. Each of us here and in our communities have a role in shaping our individual and collective future. We can be the scouts on the ground who have a vision for something better and can push our representatives and can elect the representatives who will take us to that promised land. Please join us so that we can hasten that future by acting to make sure every voice is heard and every voice is counted.
I am going to invite my friend Merle Tresser up for our next part. Thank you, Merle.
Okay, I'm going to lower this so you can hear me. Hi, I'm Merle Tresser. I'm a member of Temple Shalom in Chicago, and I've been working with RAC Illinois since it first came to Illinois, because I believe, as President Obama said, that you make things happen by pushing from the bottom. That change can't just come from the top down, it has to come from the bottom up. So that's really important to me. At one point, I was a liaison to other congregations for RAC Illinois. And what I discovered is some congregations already had a good advocacy committee going, and they were very active when there was a campaign, a RAC campaign to work on. My temple, and many others, did not have an advocacy committee. That was a standing committee. And so I started one a couple of years ago. And that gives us a body of people who are committed to organizing, who are committed to working on campaigns. And so when RAC says we've got something we're working on, they're already primed to step in. And if your congregation doesn't have an active advocacy committee, I encourage you to start one. It makes the work of RAC Illinois so much easier and makes it more possible for us to move legislation ahead in our state. So, I'd like to talk to you about one of the important things that RAC Illinois is working on coming up for this election cycle, and that's this all-important vision of defending democracy from intimidation. And the state we're going to be working on is Wisconsin. Wisconsin was one of the first states where the far right took power. And that's so interesting to me because Wisconsin was a very liberal state, La Follette and all of that. These guys came in, took power, and for a long time made it impossible for any progressive movement to happen. Because of people working on the ground, like the two partners that, can't see if their names are up there yet, but the two partners we're going to be working with in Wisconsin, their work and that of others on the ground, daily connecting with people in Wisconsin, explaining to them the importance of their vote, they were able to mobilize people to come out. The Supreme Court is now, that some of the very far-right people on the Supreme Court have been thrown out, thanks to the work of these groups and others. And the time is available now to really put a push forward to get people who have been intimidated to vote. And some of the difficulties of voting in Wisconsin are still there. So we are going to be working in a nonpartisan manner, of course, with two groups. One is the Wisconsin Interfaith Voter Engagement Campaign, and they're an interfaith network that wants to mobilize people to vote safely in Wisconsin. And our second partner is Racine, so obviously in the Racine area, Interfaith Council. And they want to educate their community members about the electoral process and getting people to participate in voting. They're on the ground, not just at election time, but both of these groups all year round to start building those connections that will actually get people to the polls at election time. And the Racine guys especially work in the areas of lowest voter turnout to try and remedy that and get more people to the polls. So really wonderful partners and really important thing. So what's this all involve? Usually it happens on a Thursday that RAC Illinois partners with these guys. We arrive in Wisconsin at about 1:30. And there's a short training session, and then we go and canvass, knock on doors. We spend about 2 or 3 hours doing that. Every RAC volunteer is partnered with somebody from one of these groups. They work together, these two groups. So you're not out there alone. You've got somebody who's local, who's on the ground, who can talk about Wisconsin issues. And it makes it very comfortable to do this work. And then there's a wrap-up, and you get to eat some cookies. Always a good excuse to eat some cookies. So as we get closer to November, we're going to be doing phone banking in Wisconsin and text banking. And a little later, we're going to be breaking into breakout groups, and you'll have a chance to let us know if you're interested in helping with this work. So thank you. consider helping with this work. It's really more important this year, I think, than ever before. And I'm going to turn this over to Ted Schaffner from Shalom. He's going to talk to you about all the other ways you and your congregation can get involved in every voice, every vote. So, Ted, it's all yours.
Thank you, Merle. I am going to talk about a number of things, ways that you can activate your own congregation to get involved in all of the civic engagement activities that are going to happen between now and November 5th. First, I would like to reiterate and emphasize what Merle said with regard to having an advocacy group, a social justice committee in your congregation, but I'll also talk about ways you might cause that to happen if you don't have one quite yet. I am Ted Schaffner. I'm from Am Shalom. I am the chair of the Social Justice Committee at Am Shalom, a member of the RAC Illinois core team, and a liaison to the National Strategy Team for Every Voice, Every Vote. So, first, you will be receiving, obviously, between now and November 5th, calls to action from RAC Illinois, as we have been all spring, and you'll get them also from the National RAC as well. But there's more you can do, other kinds of actions you should pursue in your own congregations. Some examples of things that you can get organized might be, and they're up on the board there, engage with your students in youth group, youth registration, and all the other EV efforts. It's a goal of the national group to get more youth involved. You can work to get out the vote in your own congregation, have people sign a pledge that they will in fact vote. Use social media to promote voting within your congregation. Partner with a nearby faith-based organization. Registration drives in your congregation or elsewhere. Support efforts to restore the right to vote to convicted felons and give them more civic education. Register homeless, disabled, and elderly people. Get them to the polls. Participate in the National Voter Registration Day, which is, I think that says September 10th. It's September 17th, but that'll be a nationwide day to promote voter registration. Your synagogue will do very well to get organized and pursue one or more of these efforts through the summer and well into the fall. And also, as things begin to heat up in Wisconsin, as Merle said, going up there to do canvassing and phone banking and phone and text banking, your congregation can organize groups to do that as well. Now, one of the ways you can get organized is, of course, through a social justice committee, but the RAC in Washington this year is promoting a concept called RAC Circles. A RAC Circle is a smaller group that may have some other basis for their getting together. 5 or more people, might be a book club, a mahjong group, a bridge club, a moms group, some other affinity group such as that. My guess is if you belong to any of those kinds of things, you spend at least a little time talking about the condition of the world, tikkun olam, and what needs to happen. And a RAC, you can convert that group a little bit into a RAC circle by introducing some of these activities that Merle and I have been talking about. What you would do would be to meet, do some education, occasionally a bit of Jewish practice. Now and again, invite other people to join the group if it happens to be a day when you're pursuing social justice. Use this group to do a postcard party or go together to canvass in southern Wisconsin. Organize the transportation to the polls. The idea is that because you start this group with a common purpose, it's already there, and because you share the Jewish values, this will be a way to sustain Tikkun Olam activities beyond November the 5th. With any luck at all, the group continues to go and continues to do social justice work. Now, if you want more information about how you would find a group and create the, as RAC calls them, the conveners, people who would be responsible for setting the agenda, getting the group together, making the arrangements to move beyond Mahjong and toward social justice, let us know. We can certainly help with that. Now, you've noticed, no doubt, since March, about the heavy emphasis this year on postcarding coming from the RAC. That will continue because there's a great deal of work to do. And one of the great ways to do that is with a postcard party. I know that numbers of you have done this before, have organized them, have participated in them before. But in any event, to review, a postcard party is when you gather with friends and you order the postcards. And you can either do this virtually or in person and get some snacks, some drinks, create a good atmosphere, have a good time, and write some postcards. And at a postcard party, remember, you're not just sending pieces of paper around the country. You're sending a message of unity and hope to other people. The postcards we're going to write today are going to go to Florida, and they will notice that we care about their reproductive rights. It's also a way to create community within your congregation, also very important. And with an election on the way, there's no better way to make your voices heard. And you need to know, the research shows postcards work. They work as tools of advocacy. Now, there will be a toolkit that you can use if you want to have a postcard party in your congregation. We can guide you through the process. We have an easy-to-use online registration for ordering the cards, letting the RAC know. It's very important to let RAC Illinois know that you are engaged in this activity in postcards, because we can then gather the kinds of statistics that Aaron shared with us earlier, and it's not only for our edification. We let legislators know how many people are involved, and there is power in numbers. So always register to participate because we're tracking all of these things as they go along. So we're now going to have a chance to actually fill out some postcards. These will go to Florida. What they're attempting to do there is enshrine the opportunity to have reproductive rights in their constitution. And so it's an extremely important vote, and we're going to help get that passed by writing some postcards now. I'm going to turn it back to Aaron. Thank you.
Thank you, Ted. Thank you, Merle. Thank you, Rabbi Goldstein. Didn't get a chance to say that, but thank you again. Okay, so now you heard about postcarding, you heard about RAC circles. We are actually going to get a chance to really take action and make a difference today. So I'm just going to first go through a couple guidelines around postcarding, and then I'm going to do my best to give instructions, and then we'll sort of spread out. First we'll go into groups, and then we'll spread out a little bit to actually write the postcards. Okay, so a couple guidelines. We have what we call the nonpartisan pledge that your postcard group leaders will tell you about. It is a pledge that says that our postcarding action is nonpartisan. It is also another way for us to track numbers. So I know it is a little bit of a hindrance, but please, that's the reason we are doing it. It is both a way to show people that our work is nonpartisan in the public world, especially when we get attacked on our work being partisan, even when it's not. And it is also another way, like Ted said, for us to track our numbers and show, to credential ourselves in circles of power. A couple other things. We have a script. Please use it as a guide. We have pens and pencils and postcards, so you don't have to worry about that. We have addresses, so we'll have lists of that. You don't have to worry about that. Please, I'm asking, not that I think this is really that big a deal, but you do have people's names and addresses, so please respect privacy. If we can return all of the sheets to me at the end, I will make sure they get shredded. We have both black and color pens. This seems a little silly, but I worked on political campaigns for 6 years, and what I used to tell people is you had from the door to the kitchen to catch people's eye. If you got them to catch their eye by the time they were walking to the kitchen, then they would read the postcard or they would read the piece of mail and they would think about it. So making it a little more catchy, writing a couple of the words in a different color can often seem a little silly, but really does work. So you will see a couple different types of pens. You want to leave some space underneath the address. You'll hear about this stuff so that the post office can do its stuff with stamps. And then other things you can either ask me, who I will be circling around, or we have a number of facilitators who are going to help set this up. Okay, so here's how this is going to work. I'm going to ask the facilitators to all stand up. Okay, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them. In a minute, I'm going to ask them to go to sort of separate places. 1 or 2 of you stay in here, and then the other 3 go to out. When I send everybody else, if you could find one of those people and stand close to them in a group, in a little circle, you will get your instructions, postcards, and addresses, and then we can find places to sit either in the sanctuary or in the foyer for the actual postcarding. We'll make it work. And then after that, I'm going to make a call and ask you to go back to your group, the person you got your instructions from, for the last couple minutes, just to go through a commitment form so we can follow up with you if you are interested in doing a number of these things. And then we'll come back to the sanctuary and finish up and get home for the rest of the Sunday. So if facilitators could spread out for 1 minute, if the yeah. Cool. And then it is up to you, but if you can find a facilitator and gather around them, and then I will make sure they have all the stuff and we will get started. Thank you, guys. One more minute of schmoozing, and then can everybody grab their seats? Can everybody grab their seats? Can everybody grab their seats? All right, we'll be done in 1 minute if everybody can just grab their seats. Thank you. All right, a couple notes about the postcard party. I want to say thank you guys for helping us make it work, finding a seat to fill out postcards. Thank you. Everybody in this room has now done an action, filled out postcards, made a difference in this election, so thank you very much. A couple quick notes. Though you do not, let me change that. We think filling out postcards, and I think filling out postcards with people around you is much more fun and a much more meaningful experience. But if you are interested in ordering postcards yourself, and if you would like to take the postcards you did not finish today home with you, we will make sure after this in our follow-up email that you have the link to either order postcards for Florida or the postcards we're doing to make sure there is democracy in the primary states that are upcoming. There's 2 different links, but you will get that and you can order postcards for yourself. So don't think that the only way you can do postcards is with a postcard party, but we do encourage you to do postcard parties, as everybody saw, filling them out with the group, getting to kibitz a little bit and talk. If it wasn't here or in the morning, maybe have some wine really is a nice way to do postcards and make a difference. We are now at the end of our program. I want to thank all of you guys for coming, for taking action this past year in our state campaign and this upcoming Every Voice, Every Vote, and then again taking action when we start doing work on Karina's bill and Build Illinois Homes again. Everybody in this room has decided to step up and make a difference. I'm going to, for 1 second, relieve my rabbi's kid background and tell you guys my favorite midrash, which is the story of a person named Nachshon, who was the head of the tribe of Reuben, if I'm remembering right. But we were all standing at the shores of the Red Sea and looking behind us, and there were the Egyptians coming down on us, and we were looking up to Moses, and Moses was talking to God, and we didn't know what to do. And so a guy named Nachshon decided to walk into the water and take a step. And so first he walked up to his knees and nothing happened. And then he walked up to his waist and nothing happened. But when he walked up to his mouth and he showed everybody that he really cared, that's when the Red Sea divided. I want to push every one of us and all of us to be Nachshon. Take that step into the water. Bring our people with us and show that we really do care and that we really can make a difference. If you look around and you find somebody to look in this room, you're looking at another person that cares. And so just remember, when we walk out of here, we have an entire community of people who wants to work with you, ensure democracy, ensure that we have the most just land of Lincoln that we can. And all I can say is thank you so much for coming, and just keep an eye out for all the things that we'll be doing in the future. Thank you guys so much, and have a good rest of your Sunday.